Hello and welcome to another edition of the Milk and Sugar Effects podcast series, Mavericks. I'm James Lennox. It's great to have you here. And don't forget that if you like what you see here, to subscribe to the channel and share with your friends. Today, we are speaking to a woman who has been disrupting and changing the food industry in her own small corner of South Africa. In fact, Di, it's no longer a small corner because when we first met many years ago, it hadn't really even started. And now it's blown up. 2 cookbooks, cooking classes, a massive Insta channel. It's like you do all sorts of stuff. Where does your journey start in food?
I think it's possibly accidental. And yeah, if I think about it, if I set a time or a place, I called it Bibby's Kitchen at 36 because at 36, I would say I truly began this journey. Before then, it was a little bit of a dabble, but more so I was in fashion. And I think we know the story. You know us personally, so you know that it started through difficult times, through adversity. And many things in life start that way. So it was that way for us. And at the time, I had given up my fashion career and I was staying home looking after the girls. And I always tell everybody we were bankrupt. And Darren said, my husband said, no, don't say bankrupt. That's a very bad word. But for me, it's the same as broke, isn't it? It's all the same.
Pretty much.
Penniless, broke, bankrupt, all the same thing. So I did what I could, and I was really never a good cook. I was a very good eater.
Right. Okay.
Very good.
This comes as a little bit of a shock. If people have ever tasted your food, to hear that you were never.
I know. I shouldn't actually tell them. I'm not actually qualified at all. So I could really only make a good lasagna, and I could make rusks. So I started baking, and that's probably where my poor child Sabrina got it from. And I would bake through the night. We would just run that little Defy oven until it couldn't go anymore, drying rusks out. And wherever we went, wherever Darren went, he had to sell rusks. That was his side hustle. So it started like that. And out of many things in life, you think they're accidental or it's part of the journey, but it really changes your direction in such a
fundamental way, really,
totally, that you never anticipated because it was never meant to be that.
Yeah. I like what you're saying about so many businesses or so many things that let's talk business, but so many businesses start out of adversity. For some people, it is like, well, either lost my job or like you stopped your fashion business. What am I going to do? How are we going to put food on the table? How are we going to make money? Choosing the food industry is probably not the first choice that most people would make, because if you think about any of the stories that you see on any social, Gordon Ramsay's origin story, Jamie Oliver, I mean, they start from nothing and it takes a lot of hard work to get to where they are. Food was accidental. Do you regret the fact that was your choice?
Not at all.
And why not? What's the joy that you've gotten out of becoming an influencer in the food business in this country?
Do you know what, James? If I think about just what you said, the word influencer, and that is a term that is used so broadly and so acceptable, but you never sign up to be an influencer.
No, of course not. No, not
I mean,
at all.
Nowadays you can, and you can make a far better living than most people being that. But it really comes down to what is your intention. And my intention was never to be that. My intention was just to make money, as you said, to put literally bread and milk on the table. It's as simple as that. But out of that comes something different. For me, it's not about being an influencer. It's about having the opportunity to create some joy in life with something as simple as food. And for me, it's a creative journey. Being from a fashion background, I think it just really, it resonated with me in terms of it being creative. And obviously, as I mentioned before, I'm a very good eater. So I loved what it produced, but it's so rewarding for me to be able to do something with my hands and to dream something up or to do it differently. And so in fashion, you have a piece of fabric, you can make a skirt a million different ways. And so you can make a carrot a million different ways. And that's the challenge, is coming up with something different.
What is the easier part of what you do? Developing the recipes or actually styling them and photographing them, given your background in fashion? Which was the one that you resonated with the most quickly? Because for many who may not know your journey, I mean, you literally were on social media before it was cool to be on social media, which is why I think you were using social media in a way that people weren't at that stage. You built a business through that, right?
It's become a different thing, James. It was born out of a creative platform, or as a platform for creatives in the world to connect, to show their work, and it was a little bit more pure in terms of that sense, and it's changed so much. And that's why I'm kicking against it, because for me, the weight that it carries and the responsibility is not why I do what I do. And I've tried to keep myself off that and keep it at the food, because that's really what it's about for me. It's more about the people, and we'll maybe chat about that later, about what it really means to cook. But for me, the social media part is essential, but it's not where I want to live.
You've mentioned a couple of words while we've been talking: passion, joy, all of those sort of things. How important is that for anybody who starts a business, regardless of what it is? It doesn't have to be in food, or it could be like what your husband does. Passion and that drive and the joy that it brings, are those important when you're starting a business? Are they essential, I think?
They're fundamental. But there will be not one occasion, many. Like we've spoken about the girls, there will be more than one occasion where you'll think, what am I doing? And passion is a word that we say when we're enthusiastic about something, but enthusiasm is not going to get you anywhere. Discipline, because there will be days that you literally will want to walk away. You will hate it. You will think, why did I start? It must be better than this. It's too hard. And unless you're disciplined and relentless, you will give up.
It's interesting. The root of the word passion is actually suffering, because without going into too much detail, I'm going to make that claim without backing it up, and people can fact check me. But there is suffering involved when you start a business. It doesn't matter how much enthusiasm and passion, or whatever word you want to use. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes into running your business. So why would anybody in their right mind choose to be entrepreneurial and start their own thing?
I think the key word is right mind.
So do you think, we were speaking a little bit before we started recording, do you truly believe that you have to be a little cooked to use a word?
100%.
Yeah. But
not just a little.
But a lot. What's the satisfaction you get out of it then?
There's many rewards. Otherwise you wouldn't do it. I don't think there's anything else that I'd want to do, James. I would 100%. It would make no difference to me. I would do this at the same rate, at the same pace. It's just every day for me. This is how I see it. I see opportunity in every day, and I want to be a good steward of my time. And I think to waste a day, what a waste. And you can, if you're given whatever thought process you have, or talent, or gift, or passion, whatever you want to call it, if you don't use it, don't multiply it, it really is quite a tragedy.
Yeah, that's a bit of a waste.
But I just think life is too short. There's so many incredible things in the world. So I go to bed at night and I say, please, God, don't let me die. I've got so many dishes that I haven't made, recipes, places to visit. And that's quite a wonderful thing. It forces you to live at a pace, and sometimes it's not good to keep up that pace, because there's not a lot of balance. That's the truth. But it's something that drives you, and it's either in you or it's not, James. You cannot make someone else want to do that. It's something that's in you, and when you start feeding it and you realize how important it is that you do the work, it's not a question.
We talked a little bit earlier on about how you started a website or a blog, and then, on social media, and then you chose to release 2 cookbooks. Well, you chose to release a cookbook first, and you now just released a second one recently. That also is a fairly mad thing to decide to do in an age where reading and books are not valued as highly as they have been in the past. Why did you choose to still release 2 cookbooks?
It goes down to the madness thing very much. But I don't think, as much as the world changes, that you can get away from a book. You cannot. And the more we engage with social media, I think the greater the difference, the disparity, you can see it, and the greater the craving will become to go back to that. There's nothing like it. The engagement that you get from sitting down with a book, paging, there's that action rather than the clicking through like this. And it's a reference point. I'm speaking from a cook kind of point of view. If I want to research something, I can go through my shelves, look at it. I can get lost in this little world. People can take you somewhere where you've never been. And you can do that with a book, and with food particularly, to reference. You might never make that dish, but to be visually stimulated and know, this is what I could do. I could live in this picture. And you can do it with Instagram, I suppose, but then it's too much
it's
like
transient,
work.
isn't it? Whereas a book's quite permanent.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And it's the thing that you take. I mean, I will walk up the hall with a whole pile of books, get into bed, and it's like reading a novel. And people have got the most incredible stories to tell. It's not just about the food. It's the feeling that goes behind that. All of those nuances you cannot pick up on technology. I don't think so. And that's why I will still go back, refer time and time again. And I think people the world over are valuing that. They really are.
You are heavily involved in the whole process, right? So you not only develop your own recipes, but you were instrumental when you put your recipe books together of how they looked. You've done the photography for them, if I'm not mistaken. How do you contain everything that you have? It's difficult enough actually cooking the dishes, but you've got so much that you pour into what you do. How do you sustain that?
I'm going to have to ask my husband that. He said he's probably going to have to sell me if I do another book. So it's such an all-consuming thing, James. It really is. Just to try and visualize, especially if you haven't done it before. The first book was really challenging to think, how do I put this together from all these thoughts, all these recipes? How do you create a kind of a storyline and a theme that the book flows, that it's not just a whole bunch of things thrown together? And it was very daunting, and it was a difficult process. I really struggled with it. I'm still very proud of what did come out of it. But you do learn from struggling. And I go back to that all the time. I was forced to, like with many things, there's no formal study that I did in terms of anything, the food, the photography, the writing. But when you have to do something, you make a plan and you work it out. And you don't always get it right. But when you get it wrong, like I've said to Bree and to Skylar time and time again, you redefine it and you know, this is where I stay away from, do it this way. And so I've done that with the photography, and I've enjoyed doing the second book more, I think, because I felt more confident in what I was doing. I could see the theme, and what was wonderful, and it's difficult, but to cook the recipe, style it, and shoot it, I know what I'm looking for. My eye goes to that, and that's what I want to portray. So that's why it's not a control thing. I just really like to put my vision on that page. And so you hunt for that thing.
You spoke earlier on about the people that you perhaps have come across, but one of the things that you do, and you do successfully and regularly, is you hold cooking classes. Why do something like that? Is that a marketing ploy, or is it because you enjoy the journey that food takes people on?
Oh, the people are my best. Of all the things I've ever done, I think the cooking classes were my best.
Okay. And what sort of stuff do you get out of that?
The greatest reward, and I think if you speak to people who cook for a living, if they're honest, and they are, I'm not saying they're not, but if we really search, why do we do something? My truthful, honest answer is I cook for people. And the reward, and I see it time and time again, with the classes I think we started about 20 years ago now. And at the time, I was obviously doing the rusks, and I was invited by a friend to a birthday. And it was a lot of very successful corporate girls, and none of them cooked. And they said, "Can you teach us how to cook?" So I said, "Sure." And I came home. I said to Jared, "Listen, there's people coming to the house. I'm running cooking classes." And then I had to make it up as I went. And I realized that this is the thing that I love the most.
It's really interesting just listening to you talk and watching you talk, how your eyes are sparkling. Like we talked about the recipe book and we talked about cooking, whatever. But it really is, you can see that this is the thing that kind of drives you, right? So, and I think that is the thing about food. Food brings people together in a way that very few other things, I think, and I'm saying this because I enjoy food as well. I enjoy the whole process of cooking, whatever. But food brings people together in a way that other things don't necessarily do, right?
It has it's a vehicle, James. It boils down to that. Food is that vehicle. And I've seen that connection happen around the table where, and many times, most times, a lot of people come and they don't know the other people, the other participants or whatever. And by the time, and it's all very reserved in the beginning. Everybody's very posh or whatever it is, or quiet or shy. And once we've eaten, the playing fields have leveled and people are engaged. It's that act of sharing, of passing something on, sharing something together, eating together. For me, is one of the most powerful tools to connect people
and to build relationship. Because because it doesn't necessarily always have to be fancy food here.
No.
Some people might look at this and go, "Well, this is inaccessible for the vast majority of people living in South Africa." But it's more the process of sitting down together because it builds relationship. And sharing is something that is actually fundamental to our nature, right?
Totally. It's a conversation starter. That's what it is. And last week, I did an Italian class, and we do bread with every class. So what I want to say to you about something simple, the bread and butter, it's as simple as that. And the joy that comes from something that is so fundamental, the world over, a staple the world over, it's just bread. And it has the ability to connect people, to let your walls come down a little bit. It doesn't have to be fancy. It's the act of doing it, and it's the coming together. And it just celebrates life. Because I think we saw that in COVID particularly. Sure. If there was one thing people wanted to do more than anything was to have a meal at someone's house. And I mean, some people were running around behind the corners. And that was the greatest thing, is to be together, to eat together.
You are the mother of two stunning young women who are entrepreneurs themselves. That must give you sleepless nights sometimes.
Completely. It's everything I told them not to do.
And why did they do it?
Because they're your children. They have to do it.
What sort of advice do you give to them from your own experience of doing the same sort of thing, of starting your own business? Because it's an enterprise. You've got something that you're doing that goes beyond the passion. There is a business element to it. What advice do you give them? Your best advice. Because there are a lot of things. When they were starting out, for example, what were the things that you told them the most often?
I think consistency is one of the biggest ones. As we said before, discipline. And there are going to be days, weeks, months. There's going to be long stretches of time where you actually question yourself. And I did that. When I started blogging, when it first became a thing, I would sit 7 days a week in front of that computer, write and put it out into nowhere. And you have to invest more than you think you have. It's going to take that. And unless you're consistent like that, you will not see the reward. And if you give up too soon, you won't know.
And this is the thing. There's so many people with great ideas, right? Everybody's got a good idea. There are very few people that don't have great ideas. But it's translating that into reality that people don't often get how difficult that is, right? And how much of a sacrifice that is. How would you encourage people who say want to get into what you're doing in some shape or form, whether it's recipe development or doing a cookbook or cooking classes? How would you advise them to do it properly? And what would you warn them against, if anything?
There's so many things actually, James, but I think, passion's not enough. I think I would always come down to discipline and patience, because we're a very impatient society that we want to see instant results. We want to see it all now. There's no shortcut for experience. And if someone says it's 10,000 hours, I'm going to say 20,000. You cannot fast track that, because there's so many important elements that you will miss, that you will need. And unless you've put in the hours and done the work, you won't be able to maintain, and you won't be able to meet this challenge, wherever it is. So there's no fast tracking that. So be patient, be consistent, be disciplined, be relentless. It sounds all negative, but it's not. It really isn't. But it just takes more than you ever think you would have to put in. So unless you're prepared to make the sacrifices, then maybe it's not such a good idea.
We were talking about the simplicity of bread and how universal it is as a dish. What's your favorite thing to cook for your family? If you cook, unless you get them to cook for you, which would be great.
It's such a struggle. Darren's very good with a salad, though.
Right.
He makes an epic salad and brilliant eggs.
Yeah,
So he's on
Darren's your
breakfast
husband,
duty.
by the way, just so we get that sorted out. Yeah.
What's my favorite dish to make? I think I love convivial food, the Italian way, although we're not Italian. I think people dream about being Italian, right?
Yeah, it could
We
be.
all do.
Well, it's funny. I mean, when I moved up to Joburg some 20 odd years ago, or whatever it was, I was surprised by the number of Italian restaurants that were here in Joburg. I mean, big Italian community, so it makes sense. But people do love Italian food, right? And why is that?
Because it's all about family, and it's always space for another one, and it's loud, and it's rustic, and it's delicious, and it's real. It's just honest. And so I love that. I love having people round. It's rowdy, it's noisy, everyone's doing something, chatting, and it's that feeling. That's the magic mix that I love. That's what keeps you coming back for more. So that's the kind of food I love cooking for them.
What's the most challenging food for you, for anybody to get into? The most challenging thing maybe that you've developed as a recipe?
I try not to make it too challenging, because you can be too clever and then it's amazing, but it's not doable. So you've got to keep a balance of, do I go a little bit too far? And it's impressive and amazing and memorable, but is it relatable for people that don't have a lot of time? So I've also had to change my thinking. And you have to be very cognizant of what's happening in the world, what's happening in people's lives. So you have to be interested in the people that move in your sphere, the people that you are wanting to cook your food and to love it and use it. It has to be used, otherwise it's a waste of time. So if it's not serving them, then there's no point. So I bear that in mind when I do things, so that sometimes it's got to be a little bit more higher grade, because everyone loves a challenge now and again and has more time. But on the whole, just to make it exciting, different, vibrant, using things that are available in this country. So that's also very key. It's not, keep it seasonal, keep it local, that it's attainable and doable for them.
There's so many lessons that are coming out of this, just from any entrepreneur who may be listening to this, or anybody who's got an idea about something that they want to do, whether it's work related or even a hobby or whatever, is this idea of being able to evolve and change as your environment changes. How important has that been for you to keep your trajectory moving forward and upwards?
You constantly have to be aware of what's happening in the world. It changes all the time. Economics change things. Sentiment changes things. The weather changes things. So you always have to be aware of what's happening around you, in your country, in the world. But food is moving so fast, James, you literally can't keep up. And it also makes it very exciting. So people are wanting new things all the time. They want to experience, even if they can't travel, you can take them there with your food. And that's such a wonderful privilege and a vehicle to do something like that. So if you can interpret that in a way and move with that, you've got to modernize what you do as well. So you can't remain stagnant. And so you think continually you have to not reinvent yourself, because I think that your signature and who you are, what you do, has to remain. There's got to be a strong thread, which I think I've tried to keep there. But for me, it's always about excellence. It's about quality. It's about honest, about authentic. And if you can hold on to that, I think that never goes out of fashion.
Is that how you would define your story? Excellence? I mean, what's the story that you're trying to tell through the food that you create? Because I get that you want to be excellent in what you do, but is that your storyline? Is that when you're creating food, is it about that? Or is there something else going on?
Now I really have to think.
Now we're getting deep.
For me, it's always all or nothing. So if I do it, I want to do it properly or not at all. That's the other thing that I say to my girls. If you don't do it well, if you don't do it properly, if you don't give it everything, what's it, Matthew McConaughey always used to say, don't half-ass it. And I don't think I want to ever do that. So excellence is for me important. It's not essential for everyone, but I don't think I can do something if I don't give it everything and feel proud that I've done my best. And for some people, 60% will be the best, and then that's perfect. But if you can do more, then you do more.
It's interesting you say that. I was having a conversation with somebody who says that a lot of people come up to him with great ideas, and it's like they want to be entrepreneurs and they want to do stuff. And his first question to them is, are you prepared to sell everything you've got to make this happen? And oftentimes they go, oh, no, not really. Or I can't meet now. Or I can't do this because something else is more important. Do you think he's right in that assessment, that one has to be so single-minded and prepared to give up everything to follow what you want to do to make a success of it? Or, because, I mean, you mentioned 60% is good enough for some people, but for you, clearly that's not. I mean, it's like you want to be giving 100%. But do you think you have to be prepared to give up everything to make it happen?
For me, I did, James. I did. I literally did 18 hours a day for years. I didn't, there wasn't a financial, not even a reward. I worked for free for years for that credibility. And I don't think anyone can afford to work for free. But I was prepared to do it, and I made the sacrifices to do it because what I wanted to achieve necessitated that. It's not always wise, because balance is a very elusive thing. So I'm not even going to try and do it. I've tried for years. There is no balance. It's all or nothing. And you have to sacrifice something. You cannot hold on to everything with both hands. You can't grab something new if your hands are holding everything. So you have to let it go. So that means time out with your friends, going on whatever trip or holiday or leisure time or those things. And it's not always a healthy thing to do, but for me, I couldn't help but do that. So you have to be able to say, I'm prepared to sacrifice something in this short term for the long term of what I'd like to achieve.
How much help is it to you that your husband, Darren, is also an entrepreneur and has been forging ahead, creating his own business? Does it help being a couple who have similar outlooks on, or do you have similar outlooks? And how has he helped you in your own business by being an entrepreneur himself?
I think it helps tremendously. It's also very challenging when you have two entrepreneurs as, in the home, and then two children as well. So it's a challenging thing in that the stability factor and the consistency is not there. But Darren and I both agreed that we were happy to go for it from the day dot when we got married. We would rather have this than this. And you don't really know what you sign up for, but it has been that. But having the understanding. And Darren is a leader. Darren is strong. He's taught me to be strong. And I said that to him the other day, is that he's taught me to be brave, because I do things that I really have no idea what I'm doing. And I say yes, and then I think, oh, what the hell now? And he's made me brave. And that's incredibly empowering to realize that you've got someone in your corner, and he's always said, what's the worst that can happen? And when it does, there's no throwing stones, because it has happened. But then we pick up the pieces and we try and we rebuild and we think, how do we do it differently? Can we do it differently? Let's try it again.
I do get the sense that for those people who are entrepreneurs who are not married or don't have a partner who is an entrepreneur too, it must be a lot tougher, because the sacrifices that you make and the decisions that you make, being able to bounce that off somebody else who gives you strength, who gives you advice, who you can give them advice, I think gives you as an entrepreneur a massive advantage over those who are forging their way on their own with somebody who doesn't understand that life necessarily, right?
Because it is unusual and it is challenging, it is insecure. So to have somebody that understands the risk that's involved, not many people can conceptualize that until they've done it. It's taking away all those safety nets and just winging it. And sometimes you have to. You obviously have to have a calculated thought pattern and decision and a plan. But sometimes the plans don't work.
Then you've got a problem.
Totally. and the economy is unstable in our country, in the world. So you can have a plan. You can have a perfect plan, in fact, but it might not even work.
You've been doing this for quite a while. Not going to give away your age or anything like that at all, but you've been doing this for quite a while. And we talked about evolution a little earlier on. What do the next couple of years look like for Dianne Bibby in terms of what you're doing? How do you keep yourself fresh and keep yourself moving forward? What are the things that you're going to be doing in the next 5 years?
Life's very unpredictable. It really is. Ideally, I'd like to be in Mexico and then they can just wire the money there. I'm always looking for things, James. Every day I wake up, I look around, I see possibilities. There's literally not enough time in life, I think, for the things I want to do. So I've been busy with product development, my own products that I've been doing slowly but surely over the last 3 years. So it might turn into something else. I don't know. There's always books. There's always
which
books.
We've spoken about. Which
we've spoken about.
Sure
and hopefully Darren won't watch this video. But there's always that. Yeah. And there's so much that I'd love to do. I'll continue with the classes always. And literally, I don't have fixed plans like that. When it comes, and it comes out of nowhere, I take the opportunity and I go with it. So it's always going to be in food and it's always going to involve people. But anything that's creative in food, I'm always up for it.
It's amazing to hear. It's refreshing, I think, because so many entrepreneurs or people who are working in normal jobs, let's call it, like to have a plan, like to have that certainty about what they're going to be doing in a month's time, or they set their 5-year goals or whatever. And it's refreshing to hear that, it's more you being true to the things that you love, which is creativity, food, people. And as long as it's in that, it's the kind of thing that's going to give you the satisfaction and the drive to keep moving forward.
Totally. Food is so diverse, James. It's inexhaustible. It really is. There's so many routes you can take. There's so many things I still want to learn. And if you have that mindset, I don't think you ever really retire. There's too much to do, too much to live, too much to experience. So I think I'll continue to do that. And it's no fixed plan. I've realized that those set plans don't always work. Oftentimes they don't. There aren't any, there's no stability in saying, okay, I'm going to do this, and then you're disappointed because it didn't work out that way. So when it comes, you give it all you've got. And that's the wonderful thing about food, because it's so diverse. You literally can't get bored in one sphere. There's many different creative elements to it, which I love. So it keeps it fresh.
Dianne Bibby, it has been an absolute privilege chatting to you, and wonderful hearing your views on food and on how to start a business, which, I mean, your story is fascinating. And I think that whilst a lot of what Mavericks is about trying to unpack what it takes to run a business or to start a business or to be an entrepreneur, just listening to your story has given a lot of food for thought, excuse the pun. But it has been a wonderful privilege. So thanks very much for your time. And we are speaking to a maverick of food, Dianne Bibby. Do subscribe if you like the content, share with your friends, and we'll catch you again on the Milk and Sugar Effect as we speak to more Mavericks next time.